So after I did end up talking about the entire FOMO thing with the festival playlist, something else kind of made me think about this a bit, guys, and that has to do with, does the festival playlist kind of feel like a chore now instead of content? Which I kind of feel like a lot of players might be thinking something a bit similar. And this is something that's been on my mind a bit, as we all do know a lot of players probably like the festival playlist, a lot of people don't. I've seen a lot of mixed opinions on it. And that's what I want to know from y'all. What do you guys think about the festival playlist in Forza? I'm super curious to see what everyone thinks about it, because I know there is a lot of mixed opinions. So I kind of want to see where everyone does stand on it. But a few things with this though is, we all do know in ways the cars for me obviously carry the playlist. And that's something I was wondering though. If the reward cars disappeared in the festival playlist, let's say, let's just say they were never in there, would you guys even do the festival playlist? Let me know. I bet you a lot of players probably wouldn't even bother. Now, obviously, if you're in the offline mode, I remember on Forza Horizon 5, you could go in and do the entire festival playlist and just get wheel spins and different things from basically everything if you want, which I thought was pretty cool, but also a lot of players probably won't even bother, as the biggest takeaway from it was probably the special cars you do end up getting from it. And that's something I kind of thought about, because if we are going to be on the FOMO side of this again, we're obviously getting older cars or something, at least in the current series. Again, this is hopefully going to change with some hopium there. But we also do know a lot of players probably won't even bother unless they want to get the Mazda. If the Mazda wasn't even there, I bet you most players would probably do half the entire playlist and never touch it. And if they somehow used all regular rerun vehicles, I bet you most players probably wouldn't even do it at all, which I find pretty interesting. I mean, are the cars really the biggest cause of players doing the festival playlist? Is that's what's really dragging everybody into it? But speaking of that, though, the other side of this is the weekly checklist kind of thing I'm getting from this, guys. I feel like the entire festival playlist is basically just a checklist for a lot of players. I mean, a lot of people are logging on to probably because they need points. So they'll go, okay, let me get this reward car. Oh, we might need backstage passes, right? In Forza Horizon 5. Or maybe we just want to complete this just because there's nothing else for that said player to do, and they're looking at the entire festival playlist as a checklist because they have to do it more than they probably want to do it. Now, the other side of this, though, that I have seen popping up everywhere, guys, a lot of players don't seem to be too happy about the online requirement side of the festival playlist. I do remember in Forza Horizon 5, you could easily miss some of the things like the multiplayer stuff if you didn't want to do it. You would still easily get enough points to get everything else done, and you pretty much have extra. If you wanted to do the online side of stuff, you basically never had to do it. I noticed in Forza Horizon 6, though, you pretty much have to do all the PvP stuff if it's there. Or in some weird cases, they're like, oh, well, the Eliminator, no one likes it. You know what we should do? Let's add it back into the festival playlist because everybody wants to play that game mode. Am I right? Yeah, I don't think so. People probably see the Eliminator or PvP focused stuff. They probably don't even want to bother with it. Now, I would say the trial's a little bit different, as I do honestly find the trial really fun. Don't get me wrong, it could be super annoying depending on who your teammates are, if they want to wreck you, or they think nothing matters if there's like someone that's super fast that gets ahead of everybody. Then the AI basically rubber band with them, and I think the smarter decision is to block the other racers, but that's honestly a different conversation. But I have seen a lot of people say they hate the Eliminator and also hate PvP stuff, and I've also noticed a lot of people are not the biggest fans of the entire trial thing either. Now, we all do know the other side of this is, we do know Forza Horizon is the type of social game where they probably want players to get together and stuff, which, don't get me wrong, I understand that, but I also kind of think maybe adding a few more events in there that would make it so you don't have to do those other events might honestly be one of the better ways to do it. Now, one thing I did end up noticing recently, though, with the trial being added, is they obviously upped it to 40 points now instead of 30, so you kind of have to do the trial if you want to get the 10 points there, which I don't think is a terrible thing, but I also know players probably will have issues in there because you pretty much get RNG based on your teammates on if they're going to ruin you or not. Then you also have to go deal with PvP stuff or Eliminator stuff if you don't want to bother with it. Personally, I do find the drifting events fun. You know, not everyone wants to PvP race, so maybe that could be a option, which I kind of think is probably the better way to do it. Like, you don't have to do that stuff, obviously, guys. You could do the dailies and most of the things and still easily get the cars every single week. But it's also the side of wanting to get those events done if there's cars tied to it, you are then pretty much having to do those events even if you don't want to because, oh, look, there's a car that's kind of exclusive to this one event here, which means I have to do this PvP thing even though I don't want to. To be honest, guys, the one thing I've noticed on the PvP side of these playlists is the Toge Showdown. I have, like, issues even joining events half the time because everyone backs out if the right vehicle that you have to run is not part of it, or people will back out randomly when they start to lose or something happens. It's honestly a little annoying, and I kind of even avoid doing that said thing now because I'm like, oh, look, 3 points. Anyway, I have enough for everything else. I don't really care if the Cosmo takes me an extra 3 or 4 days or an extra week to get the thing. I don't even worry about that because I don't think a lot of people would even want to do it anyway. So I'm like, you know what? I'm good. I'm going to pass on that. And then I'm starting to see people talking about how they don't want to see the PvP stuff in there. Maybe they're playing more solo, or maybe they don't like PvP and stuff. So I am curious on that as well. What do you guys think about the PvP events that are required in the playlist most of the time? Would you rather have a few extra events in there so you don't have to do PvP, or, any multiplayer type of thing? Let me know what y'all think about that. And speaking of the entire rewards and all that stuff that we see in these series and all that, I feel like the other part is on the side of the rewards feeling a bit repetitive in ways. And I feel like this can also fall into the entire bracket of a checklist, or, oh, looking at the FOMO of these older rewards. They also feel repetitive in a way because players might see old cars, and maybe the festival playlist for them is the main thing they probably do every week in the game. Of course, later on, that's like kind of the main thing you'd want to jump on every week and get things that you might be missing or doing different things. And a lot of players might look and be like, okay, well, I don't need these cars, so I don't even have to play it this week. I'm not going to go through and do all the events. There's really no point. Like, you probably want the rewards to be a bit more exciting in areas and make players want to get on there and do them, which is something I really have noticed with the festival playlist. And that's also something, guys, I'm going to touch on in another video, is the entire live service weekly type of design. We have the festival playlist in this game, obviously, and then in Motorfest we have the summit, and then also in Gran Turismo there's like that weekly thing on there. But I do feel like the summit and the festival playlist probably need some type of rework somewhere. That way it might end up making players feel a bit more excited for what they are doing, or the events not constantly overlapping or seeing the exact same races pop up most likely does end up playing a role there. And I'm curious though, because I think there could be other ways to do this. Maybe having a bigger choice of the events you can do for the players instead of only relying on the PvP stuff. Make it so there is multiple ways to add the points in there. Maybe not just dailies. Maybe there could be like a weekly challenge in there or something that you could do throughout that week that can get you like another point bonus or something that goes into everything else. Kind of similar to the monthly rivals, but not. Maybe it could be a little bit more and a little bit more of challenges mixed into there where you don't complete it in just, one thing or something. Where maybe they could be along the lines of a seasonal challenge you have to do for that said week that allows you to do other things. Maybe you could get a bonus of wheel spins from it with a couple of points added. It will give you additional things to do during that festival week that will make things a bit more interesting or exciting for the player. Do let me know what you guys think about that. I really do think something like this could really work and make more players get excited. Like, if I got on there and I saw a seasonal challenge for that week where maybe you have to do some races or explore or do a few different things or take photos in certain areas or go to certain roads, and if you do that you might get like 3 super wheel spins and maybe 5 regular wheel spins for that week with a tiny point bonus on top of the festival playlist. I mean, that sounds pretty dope, and it would also make players go, dang, I kind of like this. Maybe they can have different paths in the entire playlist where you might have to maybe just do some races or pick different cars. I don't know. I feel like there is easily more ways they could probably make this more interesting, guys. And the more I really look into this and I see what people are saying, I really do think a lot of people just view the festival playlist as a weekly checklist. And I kind of think it probably gets kind of boring for most. I bet most players might just log on to do it if there's something interesting that they want. They will log on and do the playlist. But also the other side of the playlist is the FOMO thing, where you might look at that and go, oh no, I have to do this playlist because if I don't, I will most likely never get my hands on these cars. Again, we all have talked about that. The FOMO thing is a big issue that is probably making players also feel like this is a checklist issue. And then we can also be like, oh, well, that means the cars are basically carrying this playlist. If they weren't in there, then players probably wouldn't even bother with this. But you guys know what? Let me know your thoughts on this in the comments below. Do you guys also think the festival playlist has become a chore instead of the main content part of it? And I do think there is easily ways they can fix this, as I did mention, to make this more interesting and maybe even a bit more user-friendly to players. That way they're not forced to do certain things. They can have the options to do other things in that playlist that will probably make things a tad more exciting.